Hi, in this video we're going to go through looping, and I've created a little application. We have a button and two labels. Looping is something that you're going to use in virtually every program that you have, and there are kind of two ways to do this. So in one way, we know how many times we want something to loop. Let's say I need to count to 10 or 100 or a billion, whatever that number is. Then if we know the number, or if we have a variable that knows the number, then we can loop. The second case is where we don't know how big this number is going to be. So let me give you an example. If we were opening a text file, we don't know how many characters of text are in this file. Then we need to have a condition to say, let's keep reading the file until there's no more text, or give me a line at a time until there's no more text. Or if I was parsing a web page, right? If I wanted to get all the text from this web page, then I would say keep giving me text, one character, one line at a time until there's no more text. So the nuance here is that in one case, we know how many times we want something to count. And in the second case, we have no clue how long something's going to be. So this is kind of the nuance here, again, the distinction. So in the first case, let's say that I want to count to 10, and I have two variables up here, right? This is our button procedure. I typed in a variable statement, just var, and then I have a character, and then I have a number. And let's just call this I. This will make it easier. So now we go to our begin end section here. And what we want to do, the first type of loop we're going to do is a for loop. So if I type in for and hit space, the great thing about Delphi is it already gives me, it does the code completion for me. And I knew it was going to use I for our integer, and so we could just put this up here. Now in this example, we're going to count from low to high, just like it says. So I'll type in 1, and then let's count to 10. All right. And now what we're saying is that we're going to count to 10 here, and every time we increment the number, when we go from 1 to 2, we're going to do something. When we go from 2 to 3, we're going to do something, right? So I could say, let's update our label 1, and let's show the number. So we'll put text in here. Now remember that the label shows text or some type of string. So we'll do an assignment, but what we have to do is take the number, which is I, and convert that into text. And so we do that with int to string, and we'll put I in here. Okay, so now we're gonna, every time the number is increased, then we're gonna show this, and this is gonna go really fast, so we probably won't see anything. And we didn't. We just see the last one because that's where it stopped, so because it was so quick. Now we can do another one here. Let's add in another loop. And let's do text this time. So I have my ch, right, for my character. And so we'll put ch here. And let's say we want to go through the alphabet. So I'm going to start with A, and then we're going to go to Z. And each time we increase a number, then we'll update our label. Label 2. Text, and this is already text, so we can just do an assignment here, and we're going to put ch. Now if I made the mistake of putting this in quotes here, it's just going to show ch. It's not going to show the contents of ch. So when we run this, see what happens. Okay, so we went 1 to 10 really fast, so all you saw was 10 because it was too quick, and then after that we went A to Z. And the key here is that it's sequential. So we counted to 10, and then we counted A to Z. And if we look at our code, that's exactly what we told it to do. Now, what if we wanted it to, I don't know, count the alphabet 10 times? And to do that, we have to change our code around. And this is just an important concept because you want your computer to do the right thing. And you want to, be able to optimize this. So Pascal has this notion of begin and end statements, right? And that's what we have here and here for our procedure. So if I were to add a begin and end statement here, if I can put an end down here, then I can put multiple lines of code in here between this beginning and end, and it will do all of them. So the nuance is, one nuance is, if I just write a for statement, and then I write, let's say I had 3 lines of code, right? If I wanted to copy this, let's paste this down here. The nuance is this for loop will execute this line of code for A to Z, and then this line of code only executes once after we've counted to Z. And so we use a begin end statement if we want to execute multiple lines of code in our loop. So I can nest this statement. So again, now we have count to 10 and then count A to Z. But if I want to count through the alphabet 10 times, then I can put this code in here, right? And now what happens is we count from 1. Let's start with 1. We go to A to Z. And then this thing loops back and I becomes 2. And then we count A to Z. And then I becomes 3 and A to Z. And so this is how this looping structure, this nesting of these for loops would be how we count from A to Z 10 times. So when we run this, let's see if it's slowed down a little bit. Maybe a hair, right? It was still pretty quick. So if I can add a couple zeros in here, and we'll start to see that we have a delay here. And so it's really important to, and there we saw it. So it's really important to figure out the flow of your program so it does what you're expecting. Now, let's go on to the other type of looping. The other type of looping says, maybe we don't know how long something's going to be. And this is called a while statement. So while something is true, it will keep doing this. So let's give it a statement here. So let's say let's make it 0 again. Okay, so we're back to 0. So if I were to put in here while I is less than 5, do something. And let's just update our label. We'll do our second label. I is less than 5. Okay, now at first glance, it looks like this while statement is easier than the for loop. So if I just press the button here, I'm going to get what's called an infinite loop. And what that means is my computer is going to run forever. You start hearing your fan going, you may run out of memory, and then it could crash. And so this is an important concept. And let's go ahead and run this just so you can see what happens. So when I hit run, we had a pretty good response last time. But when I hit this button, you're going to notice that it's not finishing. So nothing's going on here. In fact, I can't even move this window. It's frozen up. So let's kill this process. Do Control-Delete. Here's our form. We can see that it's not responding. So this is an infinite loop. And let's look at what happened here. No, we don't need to let Microsoft know we messed up. So let's look at the differences here. So in the for loop, I told it to count from 1 to 1,000. And it does that count for me automatically. So we start with 1, it goes here, each line, and then it goes back to the for loop, and it makes I equal to 2, and then it makes it equal to 3, and it makes it equal to 4, and it does that count. The while loop does not do that. And so in our example here, we had I is equal to 0. We do the test while I is less than 5, while I is 0, right? Then it's going to print this line. And then after this executes, it does it again. But I is never increased. And so that's our infinite loop because I is always less than 5. And it'll keep going until you run out of power. So what we need to do is force, if this is our example, we need to force I to increase. And here's how we do that. So we can say I is equal to I plus 1, right? This is one way to do it. If you're used to C or some other language, you're probably used to seeing something like this. I is equal to I plus 1. Well, that doesn't work in Pascal. So we have 2 ways to do this. We can type out I equals I plus 1, or we can use a function called increment. So we can say increment I, and that gives us plus 1 for us. So again, there are 2 ways to do it. The important thing is that we pick one of these ways so that we don't get the infinite loop. So now if I ran this right now, I'm going to get a hang again, right? The computer's going to run forever. And why is that, right? We have our I set to be 0. We've told it why I is less than 5, do this. And then we've given it a label. We're going to update the label. And then we're increasing I. So if I is increasing, why would we get an infinite loop? Well, the key here is that this statement, the while loop, just like the for loop above it, will execute one line, and it will keep executing that one line until I is greater than 5. The problem is it's only executing this one line, so it never gets to I equals I plus 1. And so again, important nuance here. So what we want to do is we're going to add a begin, right? And then we're going to add an end. So now what we're telling the system to do is execute every line in here, right? If I is less than 5, complete this entire structure, every line in here, and then go back and do the task. And this gets us out of that infinite loop problem. So when we run this, there we go. I is less than 5. So again, at first glance, while looks easier than for, but realize that there's some extra complexity that we need to do it. So typically when we're counting to a number that's known, again, this could be a variable, it could be A, B, C, X, Y, whatever. If we're counting to a known number, we use these. And if we don't know how long something is, again, reading a file, or parsing a web page, something like that, while the outside light is on, do something. So we want this condition to run for a long period of time, and we want the condition to change, and we don't know when that's going to happen. So that's when we use the while loop. So take care, and we'll see you in the next video.